Hello and welcome to the Upshot, Multi-World Disc Golf's podcast about the latest in the disc golf world. I'm the editor, Charlie Eisenhood. Joining me is Josh Mansfield, and USDGC and the Throw Pink Women's Disc Golf Championships are all wrapped up in Rock Hill. We will be turning our attention to the Disc Golf Pro Tour Championship later this week, but we're not talking about that today. No. We are going to break down what we just saw. Actually, a historic weekend at the USDGC. Pretty incredible overall competition, Josh. And, I just want to say it right off the top. It is very possible that we will look back at this tournament years from now and say, this was the beginning of a changing of the tide. Now, I don't think we're there yet. I don't think the fact that Gannon Buhr and Nicholas Antila go 1-2, and they're the ones battling down the stretch at the USDGC, both 20 years old and younger, tells us that, now it's their time. But it feels like we could be seeing the seeds of the future emerging the same way we did back when Schustrick won in 2010, back when Macbeth won Worlds in 2012. Like, you see these players who you're like, wow, these could really be special, and they win a major, and you're like, maybe we'll look back on this. And obviously the Macbeth era started in 2012. Schustrick didn't really pan out, but we're going to be talking about him today because he's got a lot of connections to the young Gannon Buhr.
Not only is Gannon ushering this time in with a historic performance at USDGC, but we've talked about how players are affected by going to college and being on tour at the same time. And while Gannon had a full season this year, he still is going to high school. And next season, that's not going to be the case. He is going to have his life wholly dedicated to disc golf. He already had a stellar season this year, capping it off with an incredible and historic win at the major at USDGC. And it's going to be only upwards trajectory for a young player like Gannon. If he stays healthy, I think we have seen a generational talent really begin to break out, and we could be watching him play incredible disc golf at the top level for 10 more years. 15
well, let's
more
just
years.
give you let's give you the quick rundown, folks. Gannon Buhr wins it by a stroke over Nicholas Antila. He had to step up on 18 and make a clutch approach shot after Antila put it close, and he did. He put it closer, and he tapped in the putt to close it out in regulation. Calvin Heimberg finishes in third, Paul Macbeth in fourth, and Matt Oram in fifth. Over at the Throw Pink Women's Disc Golf Championship, not a major, just an A tier, Catrina Allen wins it by 3 strokes over Kristen Tatar. Hannah Blomroos in third place, 4 shots back of Catrina, and those 3 really separated. Missy Gannon was 9 shots back of Allen in fourth, and Haley King finished in fifth. And what we're going to do here today is we're going to break down Gannon Buhr's youngest ever USDGC winner appearance by giving you 17 facts about his win in honor of his 17 years on this earth. He does break Will Schustrick's record. This is our first stat. He breaks Will Schustrick's record for being the youngest ever USDGC champion. And Josh, Will Schustrick's his favorite player. He kind of looks like Will Schustrick. He kind of throws like Will Schustrick. And Will was quickly on social media, of course, still involved with Prodigy, to congratulate Gannon on the win. And just amazing. There's a picture of the two of them when Gannon was 15 together, and Gannon looked like a little kid. And, you think about the physical ability that Gannon has been given by growing to, whatever he is, 6 foot, 6'1", something like that, with the kind of ranginess that can be so lethal in disc golf. And you bring on the putter that he has put together at such a young age. And I mean, you can see why he's been a top 5 player on tour this year and why he was able to win this tournament.
I think that's something that stood out to me so much when I saw that social media post from Will, was the differences in Calvin from 15 to now. He's still growing. he might be taller.
You mean
better.
Gannon, not Calvin.
Gannon, yes, not Will. Not Will. Did I say Calvin?
You said Calvin.
My bad. Gannon. Like the biggest difference between Gannon I bet Calvin 15 to 17 was also a stark difference, but Will was not posting about that. I think like there are stark differences in just those 2 years for Gannon, as is typical for high schoolers, right? I think that's going to continue to be the case. He's only going to continue to develop physically to becoming a better and better player. He's still so young. What an impressive win for Gannon this week.
All right, what's stat number 2, Josh?
Stat number 2 is that Gannon is tied with the second fewest major starts before a major win. This being recorded since the year 2000. The first place is Wysocki. He won his second major that he entered. And then after that, it was Todd and Buhr. And so they're tied at second place. And that was 4 starts between majors.
I mean, right. Yeah, he's super young, so it makes sense. Oh man, to in your 4th ever major, and I assume, what were his 4? Did he play Worlds last year, and then he played, or maybe they were literally all this season?
Did he play European Open this season?
I don't think so.
So probably Worlds last year, and then Champions Cup, Worlds, USDGC.
MPO majors, 2021 Worlds, last year's USDGC, Champions Cup, Worlds. It should be his 5th. So that may be, unless I'm missing something, it should be his 5th ever. Because
that would mean he's 3rd.
Okay. Well, there you go. We're correcting Statmando on the air. Yeah, because he played USDGC last year. He finished 12th. And before that, of course, he did win juniors in MJ15.
2-time
back in 2019.
2-time junior world champion.
Yes, that's correct. He also won it in 2017.
Yes.
And he was playing MJ13 that year. So, he's a prodigy. No pun intended. Sort of pun intended.
Yeah. Take that back.
He's the 7th USDGC winner to come from behind on the final day out of the 23 champions we've had over the years. So, I mean, when we talked before in our Rapid React show, which please, if you don't have a subscription, get one. Go back and check out our Rapid Reacts from the week because we talk in depth a ton about the tournament. We had Buhr with the lowest winning chances in that top 4. Clearly one of those players is going to win the tournament. And, the combination of where he was on the leaderboard and the players he was going up against, it seemed like he had the lowest chance. And then he balled out.
Antila was just this close to being only the 3rd player to go wire to wire at USDGC. Real close, but Gannon gets the come behind win. He is the 13th unique USDGC winner in the event's history. I expect that number will probably continue to grow as very quickly. It's going to be an exponential growth with the way that the MPO game is developing and just given the way that the leaderboard looked throughout the week. I think we can expect to see many more unique USDGC winners.
It's the second shortest gap between the final amateur event of a player's career and their first MPO major win since 1990. His last AM event was just 3 years ago. It's easy to forget how quickly he's become not only a professional, but an elite professional. So pretty amazing.
He joins LeCastro as the only players to win their second USDGC start, which does not include Ken Climo, who won the first and second USDGCs. I think it's a really impressive stat. We talk a lot about Winthrop and the kind of golf that it makes you play, the game planning, and I think it's a really strong advantage to have played Winthrop multiple times. So for Gannon to come out and win his second, I mean, we can see it's just a very unique feat.
Gannon also joins a impressive list of players who's won a major before they won an Elite Series event. Now, obviously, this kind of puts you at the 2003 mark because that's when we started sort of counting national tours and Elite Series. There were sort of quasi things in the past, but we're not counting those. But here's the other players on the list. 3 of them won USDGC as their first big tour win. Will Schustrick, Nate Sexton in 2017, and Chris Dickerson in 2020. Now, Chris had won some Pro Tour championships, so I don't know how you want to count those. They're kind of a weird hybrid event. They kind of stands alone. Mm-hmm. Other players include Avery Jenkins, Nate Doss, and Ricky Wysocki. That's very good company to keep, Josh.
Very, very esteemed company. And, I think when you look at the first three who won a USDGC before winning an Elite Series event, it also is a very esteemed group at just in talking about the USDGC, right? This was Sexton's big win. Schustrick won it 3 times and is historic. And when you think about USDGC, it's impossible to separate him from, separate Schustrick from the tournament. And so just some really, really good company in that group there. Gannon Buhr is one of 5 players to win a junior or an AM major and an MPO major. That includes Wysocki, Sexton, Doss, and Coling. So same list as before, but it does include as well Jeremy Coling. So
crazy. Yeah, there's some players who've won junior worlds or U.S. juniors and just have never gotten that major. Mm-hmm. Yuli,
Barella,
a lot of special players who maybe will still get one someday. But for Buhr to do it at age 17, it's remarkable. He shot a 12 under in the final round, 1090 rated. That's the 4th highest rated round recorded at USDGC. So it was easily his best round of the tournament. He basically got better every round. I think rounds 1 and 2 he had the same score, and then he shot a 9 in round 3 and then a 12 in round 4, putting him up there with one of the elite rounds of all time at the tournament.
Yeah, well, and there's a little bit more about that 1090. We've got Statmando giving us some stats right now as we're recording. It is the 2nd highest final round rating at a major. The highest was Ricky Wysocki at 1097 at the 2017 Aussie Open. And
specifically, it's the 2nd highest final round rating.
Final round, yes, correct.
At a major, and, wow.
Yes. It's the 2nd highest final round rating in a major win as well. So it's and it's the highest in the United States. So the only exception there is Ricky Wysocki at the Aussie Open, and a lot of those were by 1 stroke. But yeah, Gannon is in esteemed company because you jump all the way down to Feldberg, who shot a 1076 back at the 2011 European Open.
Wow. That's amazing. I mean, I knew that this was going to be a good stat because he surely had to have been one of the best final round major performances of all time by rating, and number 2 ever in the final round.
There you go.
Ricky shot a 1097 at the Aussie Open in 2017. But I mean, literally, it's not just historic because he's the youngest ever winner. He had to play out of his mind.
Yeah.
And he did.
Yes.
Including a double bogey. That's what's incredible.
He could have had an 1100 rated round without that double bogey.
He could have. I mean, he would have. Yeah. Right? If he gets those 2 strokes back, even if he doesn't birdie,
he would have. Yeah, I think so.
Incredible. I mean, who knows? If he has a bigger lead, he probably lays up on 18.
Sure. But the what-if-isms.
Yes.
Yep. 1067 event rating is his career high, and 5 of his 6 1050-plus events have been this season. Think you're going to see some more of those events, Charlie?
I think we are. But that's amazing, to shoot the best round. And, I have some more thoughts. I'll just give him now. The thing that we were talking about with Gannon, he's been in this spot a couple times this season where he was in a position to win, when he had a chance to win, and he didn't pull it off. You go all the way back to the beginning of the season. He's got the lead going into the final round of LVC, and he kind of just starts to miss the mark a little bit late in the back 9. And Drew Gibson, to his credit, played amazing in that final round to catch Buhr, and then they have this epic playoff, and Buhr kind of draws the short stick to have to go first on the hole with the OB and the sand trap or the hazard, and he goes into the hazard and Drew just has to not make a mistake, and he doesn't. And it's over. And there's this picture, of course. Remember, not a picture, it was in the video, of him standing in the sand trap, head down, crushed, because he'd made this error and he had this chance to win. And you think about the lumps that he took during the season in other spots. Now, I know he won a Silver Series, so, like, you know, credit to him for that, but it's just a different beast.
Mm-hmm.
And I was saying at the time, like, these are the moments you have to go through. You have to pass these tests in order to be able to step up and play your best when it counts. And Gannon was ultra clutch. I mean, if we just want to talk about some moments from the round, you know, he cans the huge putt on 14. He cans maybe a putt more impressive than Macbeth's last year on 17 from 60 feet. And big putts Antila twice. Now, I mean, Antila's miss on 14 was brutal. It was absolutely brutal.
Yes.
Like, you know, that's one that he's going to think about for a long time, because he was quite close to the basket and he just was almost too confident, right? He put it off the band. But, you know, a couple of misses from Antila down the stretch on the putting green was the difference.
Mm-hmm.
It was the difference. And Buhr putted the lights out. Up there with best putting performances of the season in a single round. Hit from 60 twice. Hit from 70 on hole 1 behind the log. Only missed one putt the entire tournament from circle 2. Or the entire round, that is.
Yep.
Just a crazy putting performance. He averaged more than 26 feet on his makes. And he had a bunch of tap-ins. And that just shows you how great the putting was. And, I mean, the kid was just totally locked in when the pressure was at its absolute maximum.
Mm-hmm. One thing that I will add, today is rating updates day, and while this will not be calculated in ratings, Gannon Buhr now is tied for the third best player in the world. Paul Macbeth sits at top at 1049, Ricky Wysocki is at 1047, and Gannon Buhr and Chris Dickerson sit at third with 1043.
Wow.
Moving up one rating point.
Yeah, this won't count.
This won't count, but... Even
though it's his best event rating ever.
While we were talking about that, I felt like it would be appropriate.
XM, baby.
That's right. I remember someone in the Discord, when we were talking about the challenge that Winthrop creates, someone put in the Discord, they said, yeah, it's kind of nice when you can just ignore the PGA rules. It's pretty accurate, actually. Gannon has the best average finish at an Elite Series or at major events this season at 7.5.
Think about that. Think about, we talk about consistency and whatnot. Of course, Ricky kind of driving that conversation these last few weeks.
Mm-hmm.
Buhr is the highest average finish on tour.
Yeah.
That's incredible. That's incredible. Now, I don't think you're going to sit here and make the case that Gannon's had a better season than Ricky, for example.
But consistency, Charlie.
But, I mean, in some ways, he's got the biggest... Who has a more important win this year? We don't need to talk about that. It's obvious.
What's the next stat there, Charlie?
All right, let's keep it rolling. I'm going to give you some quick hitters, all right?
Okay.
Just some stats from his performance over the course of the weekend. He was second in strokes gained tee to green. He was fifth in strokes gained putting. He had the 8th fewest OB strokes, and impressively overcame Nicholas Antila, having tied for the fewest OB strokes in order to beat him. He had the 3rd highest scramble percentage. He was 3rd in Circle 2 in regulation and 4th in Circle 1 in regulation. The only stat in which he just outright led, and it makes sense, birdie or better. He had 54% birdies and eagles out at Winthrop. And your final stat here, number 17, about Gannon's weekend, he ties a hot round in the final round at a 12 down. That was the best. Joel Freeman shot a 12 in round 3, and then Gannon shot a 12 in the final round to overcome a deficit, beat Paul Macbeth, beat Calvin Heimberg, beat Nicholas Antila, birdie the last 5 holes, bounce back after the double bogey, what an immense performance.
No disrespect to Joel, but doing it in a final round with that kind of pressure is a world of difference than doing it when you're out of contention.
It's just a fact. So, Josh, I guess I want to ask you before we move on from Gannon.
Mm-hmm.
What were what were the key moments in this round that you said, wow, like he could win it, or like, wow, what an incredibly clutch moment?
Hole 1, I think, is a big deal because Gannon starts this round behind from all the other players, and I think that's a spot where, given the people that are on that list, is not where you want to sit. So for him and Nicklaus to both birdie that, with Calvin and Paul missing it, sets the tone really well for what was an impressive front nine, going 7 down through front 9, where Calvin and Paul very quickly faded off in terms of their relative importance in that tournament. The next important one... Oh, go ahead.
No, go.
The second one was on hole 10, when he secures the lone eagle on the card. Being able to take the easiest hole on the course and outscore the rest of your lead card, which is filled with some incredible names, including Nicklaus, who was in the course of shooting 7 straight birdies, is another important factor. Even though the next 3 holes he follows it up a little bit slow, I think that eagle's a really big deal. The birdie on 14 is never a gimme. For him to be able to achieve that, and for Nicklaus to miss that putt, I think is another big swing moment.
It was a 60-footer for Gannon. Death behind.
Yes.
If you airball that, you're hazard.
Gone.
You lose the tournament probably.
Huge deal. That probably is the defining moment of Gannon's round, because it kicks off then the 5 birdies with the putt on 17. And this is the one I don't think quite enough people are talking about. Hole 18 is, it's birdieable. There are lots of birdies on the weekend. In the top, plenty of players got birdies. It is also a hole, though, that I think does an excellent job of exacerbating pressure. And even if that shot is a stock hyzer shot that you've made plenty of times in the past, we've watched players mess that up in critical moments every single year when the pressure is on. And for him to watch Nicklaus put that disc just real close, and for him then to match that and put it even better, I think it was a shot that is not talked quite enough about relative to the round, and secured him that win and prevent him from having to go to that playoff.
I mean, let's just go back here and talk about this, right? Because after 13, when Buhr takes the double bogey after going out of bounds,
an atrocious OB, by the way.
Yeah, terrible.
He hits
he has the lone
OB. Yeah.
Or he misses lone circle 2 putt on that hole.
Right.
Yeah, tell us about the shot.
Okay, so first, off the drive, he hits like an early tree and doesn't make hardly any progress. So he goes mid-range, but is kind of throwing the ante because he's pinched up against the tree. And this mid is just a very neutral-looking mid. Gannon just juiced it. And it just drifts OB. He is still so far back that he doesn't have the best approach. He's off on the OB, which means he's going to have to work it around the big pine tree that defines the mouth of the gap. And then, as you said, misses the circle 2 putt once he gets close. I mean, that's his circle 2 miss on the day, the only miss he had. But it was a utter disaster of a hole. And at that moment, I wondered, is this where Gannon melts for the rest of the tournament? Because he could not have played that hole any worse. Couldn't have done it.
Well, so at this point, he's down by 3 strokes. Antela takes the par, and it's a 3-shot lead for Nicklaus.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what makes 14 so incredibly important, because it's a 2-shot swing. Gannon hits this monster putt, Nicklaus misses off the band, and all of a sudden it's back to a stroke. And then Gannon puts the pedal down and goes birdie, 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 birdie to close. And I mean, just so many crazy moments, like Buhr and Antela making the green, but Buhr is way out. Antela is like edge of the circle. They called it a circle 2 putt, so he must have been like a step outside the circle.
I think he was like 36, 37.
Yeah, it was close. Yeah. And Buhr is way, he's at like 60, and he just buries this putt, like ultra confident. And then Antela misses, And of course, same thing there. Like Buhr, if he misses metal, it's probably going over the hay bales and out of bounds. And so then, okay, like here we go. We go into 18. Buhr's got the one-shot lead. And, they're both safe on the fairway. And then Antila, who's way down the fairway, just makes an incredible approach shot to get it close, put it inside the circle. And so you're sitting there and you're thinking, okay, like Gannon obviously can just birdie and win, or maybe he's conservative and just like, let's go to a playoff. Because the thing is, if you make a mistake there and you're Buhr, if you go OB, you're probably going to lose.
Correct.
Now, maybe you're typically if you short it, right, and you go into OB on the left side, you're usually way back from the basket. And so you can't do that, but it's really easy to juice it and go long and, end up, kind of hit the big tree on the backside of the green. And instead he's just like, no, all good. I'm just going to park it. I mean, it was insane. I still have like weird conspiracy vibes about how his disc didn't go down to the like next ledge. When I watched it on the stream, it like clearly looked to me like it went off the ledge, and then he was like 15 feet out. I was like, what happened?
I don't know. I just don't
Camera
ask
trickery.
questions.
Camera trickery. But just incredible, man. Like,
yeah,
the putt on 17, absurd.
So good. So good.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's move on. I want to talk about Catrina Allen's win at the Throw Pink Women's Championship. Josh, it wasn't quite wire to wire because Catrina was one shot back of Missy after round one. But it was pretty close. Catrina then shot a 10 down in round two to take the lead and never really looked back. I mean, she had like a soft patch in her round in round three, where between holes 5 and 11, she went 5 over and actually let Hannah Blomroos into the lead, but then closed out strong, ended up having a substantial lead going into the final round over Kristen Tatar, and didn't play a perfect final round, but every time she made a mistake, she hit a big putt. I mean, it was just clockwork out there. I don't think I've ever seen, at least any point this season, I've never seen Catrina's putt look this good. She was locked in all weekend, was one of the best putters at the tournament, statistically. She was ultimately second in strokes gained putting. She was fourth in circle one putting. She was around 10th or 11th in circle two putting, but just clutch too. I mean, that's the thing. She was super clutch.
I mean, this tournament is defined by that 10 under round that gave her the separation needed to play the way that she did in the last two rounds. She hit clutch putts, but by no means was she like overwhelmingly good in the last two rounds. She was even through the last two rounds. If you had told me that the FPO winner was going to go even in the final two rounds, I probably wouldn't have believed you. But that's how dominant her rounds, especially round two, but a strong round one in the calm conditions that allowed her to open up that lead. I think it's noteworthy that when you look at those, like when you look at conditions, at no point were the conditions terrible or like we've seen in the past, but to be off your game when it's picture perfect conditions is going to have a larger detriment than I think in the elements where everybody is suffering kind of equally. And that's what we saw from Catrina Allen and Kristen Tatar. Kristen was off in the first round especially and had so much work to make up after the conditions had gotten a little bit more poor that it was harder to shoot the kind of rounds that Catrina was able to in round two and in round one. And that's what left Kristen so far behind. And she put herself in that hole. And that's the big difference, is that Catrina took advantage of the really important rounds early in the weekend when the weather was nice and opened up a lead that even though she didn't play the best 2 rounds of golf, it was insurmountable. And the putting is what made sure that was the case.
Yeah. Yeah. I said it going into the final round. If Catrina makes her putts, she's going to win, and that's what happened. Kristen got close. Kristen almost closed the gap. Kristen had a chance going into the 18th hole to maybe, if Catrina made a mistake, force the issue and get to a playoff. Could have happened. Kristen played it conservatively and kind of needed Catrina to blow up, and Catrina had 2 strokes to play with, so it was just keeping it simple, moving up the fairway, and not a problem for the comfortable victory. But Kristen left some opportunities out there. I mean, it's what's amazing about Tatar's weekend is that she still managed to finish in second when she started the tournament after round 1 in 16th. And that's just how good she is. Like, even she never really had her game dialed the whole week and still came close to winning and maintains her podium streak this season. Technically, this is not an Elite Series or a major. We'll talk about that later. But either way, she has not missed a podium at any point this year, except for she did DNF from a tournament when she was dealing with the injury. So if you want to count that.
It was a European tournament, though, wasn't it?
It was.
Yeah,
nothing
so
stateside.
Not Elite Series either.
No.
So, it was a good win for Catrina in a season where I think that at the end of the season, especially, she had been having a little bit of a struggle. And I mean, when was the last time that we talked about Catrina?
I mean, she's been downright bad for a month.
Yeah. It's overall fine season. Really, really strong early season. LVC win, 3rd at Waco, wins Open at Belton, 2nd at Texas States, has a 2nd at DDO, Masters Cup, 3rd at Portland, 2nd at Beaver State, wins Idlewild. So pretty strong early mid-season. And then just like you said, the past month since, D-Glow was 6th and then just 7th, 11th, 24th, 13th.
Yeah, terrible.
Not
by
good
her
performance.
Standards, terrible.
Yes.
And she looked off. Her throwing form was off. She wasn't putting great. That's what makes this win so amazing.
Agreed. And I think it does a lot to kind of keep Catrina in that conversation, because remember, overall, we were talking about Catrina falling out of the top 4 in the bye to semis. We had some chat in the Discord about this, but it is still, you have the top 3 right now. You have Kristen, you have Paige, you have Catrina. And I'd love to do a more in-depth, tier breakdown. Those are some of my favorite things to do is the tier breakdowns of where we feel like players are sitting relative to those groups. But right now, I mean, those 3 are, I think, in my opinion, indisputable at the top in that top 3 best 3 players in the division right now.
And separated from the rest of the field.
Correct.
Clearly. All right. Quickly, we're going to hit the purse watch, and we're going to take a quick break. Purse watch, let's break it down. We're going to kind of talk about these separately and then combined. 100,750 at USDGC for the MPO. 71,950 in added cash, and the payout for the winner, the biggest this season, the biggest ever at a non-tour championship tournament, $25,000 goes into Gannon Buhr's pocket. That's pretty sweet, man.
That's so
cool. I wonder if his high school classmates were like watching and are like, "Oh, damn, dude just got 25 grand." It's up about 25% from last year's purse, which was around 80,000.
25% increase from last year.
Right.
Yeah. Throw Pink Women's Disc Golf Championship, $35,498 in total purse, with a $10,000 FPO winner payout. The only tournament this season that beat that was Worlds. So
it matched Catrina's payout from last year's Worlds, 10 grand. Yes.
So Catrina taking home some nice paychecks every season. And that is up 43% from last year. So up from almost 25,000 from last season. Big jump between the 2 events. Now, if we combine them, total purse comes out to $136,000. And so that is an increase of just under 30%, which was 105,000 combined for the two events last year.
Yes, it's the second highest payout total purse this season behind Worlds. So
impressive for a major / A tier combo.
Yes. Pretty big discrepancy between the payout for MPO and FPO. And there's, kind of an awkward thing there. But the tournaments are run basically separately. Like the Throw Pink tournament is operated by Throw Pink, a nonprofit charity. And so they have just like a different set of requirements to US Disc Golf, which runs the USDGC. And I think, on the show on Thursday, Josh, before we talk Pro Tour Championship, let's break down some more stuff about overall the event, how Winthrop went this year. So if you have thoughts on any of that or just sort of miscellaneous topics about USDGC, hit us up, upshot@oldseaworld.com. We want to hear from you. And we're going to take a quick break right now. When we come back, we're going to do our top 10 stories that don't involve the winners of these tournaments. And there's some really good ones. So don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. The Upshot is presented by Pound Disc Golf, makers of the best bags in the sport. Did you know that Pound makes more than disc golf backpacks? That's right. They've got beverage carriers. I've got one. They're awesome. They've got travel bags like the Fly Pack. You can even get a toolbox to have a practice bag in the trunk of your car, a fanny pack, packing cubes, and a whole lot more. Go to PoundDiscGolf.com and trick yourself out with Pound bags for every aspect of your bag needs. Finding that perfect disc can be difficult with so many new brands and molds. Now there is an easier way. TryDiscs.com is a free, easy-to-use website with awesome tools to compare discs between brands. You can search by flight numbers or disc dimensions and search over 175 retailers to see who has the disc in stock now. TryDiscs even gives you promo codes to use on your next purchase to save you up to 20% at multiple different disc golf retailers. Next time you're looking for a disc, check out TryDiscs.com. That's discs with an S.
Sunset Lake CBD is a hemp farm located just outside of Burlington, Vermont. For years, Sunset Lake produced milk for Ben & Jerry's ice cream, and in 2019, they diversified and started growing hemp for CBD. Sunset Lake CBD believes that their farm table approach is the best way for you to get responsibly produced, high-quality CBD products that actually work. Sunset Lake CBD crafts topicals, gummies, oils, and more to help with stress, aches, and sleep. I know I've talked before about how I like using the melatonin CBD-infused gummies before I go to sleep, but one thing I remarked this week that is a really nice feature of it, if I take NyQuil, I have to set a timer because I've got 30 minutes, and then I'm going to be completely dysfunctional. I can take this melatonin CBD and I can continue to watch my movie, read a book, and go to bed when I feel ready rather than forced by other medication. I think it's a big deal for me. I really appreciate the sleep I can get, and I know that melatonin-infused CBD has been great. Check them out today and all their other products at sunsetlakecbd.com and use coupon code UPSHOT for 20% off all products. Sunset Lake CBD, farmer-owned, Vermont-grown.
Welcome back to the Upshot. It is time to dive into our top 10 non-winner storylines. So we're going to go ahead and start at number 10. And for me, Josh, it's Nate Sexton finishing inside the top 10 again. This dude barely plays, is a dad at home, chilling in Oregon, shows up and finishes at the top 10 at the majors. Again and again and again. It's clockwork. Mm-hmm. Incredible player, just doing his thing, selling his Firebirds, and just it's so awesome to see him continue to be successful, even as he's just not really, you can't even say he's on tour at this point.
No, you can't. He does more commentating gigs than he does tournaments anymore. I said it on the show, on the Reacts. He's going to go home. He's going to sit on his throne of Firebirds and start thinking of his design for next season's, Benjamins that he's going to be printing in the form of a Color Glow Firebird. Number 9 storyline for me, Haley King finishes in the top 5. This is the second time we've seen Haley King go from absolute just gone, disappeared off the tour, to coming back and playing well at a major. Remember, she wins the U.S. Women's Championships this year, and now takes fifth. Not a major, man.
We're getting there. We're getting there. Yeah, put that disclaimer at the top of our show. We know this is not a major, but we're going to talk about it as such. Haley King takes the top 5 at a big, important event, and relative to the women's tour. I don't know if or what her plans are going to look like for next season, but Haley King still is an incredibly talented disc golfer. Number 8, Macbeth. Doesn't catch Climo yet in the all-time major count. Macbeth, of course, trying to go back-to-back at the USDGC, become the first player to do it since Schusterich, but not this time. It kind of felt like it was going to be him when you see him kind of bounce back after a slow round 1, and he gets up into the mix, and Ricky falls off, and then it's like, here's Macbeth. He's right there. He's in great position on the lead card for the final round, and he's playing against a couple of young kids and somebody who doesn't have a reputation for playing particularly well in the major final rounds. Mm-hmm. And he ends up finishing at the bottom of the card, 4th place. So, rumor is that he wasn't feeling well, that he had a fever the night before. At the end of the day, just kind of was a little off. Drives were a little off. Putt was a little off. Didn't have it.
They're
not always going to have it.
That way.
He still played pretty well. He actually basically shot the same event rating that he did at Worlds. This time he got 4th place. There he won.
Sometimes that's how the weekend goes. Number 7. I picked for number 7, Ricky's meltdown. Round 3 was as bad of a round that Rick could have asked for. He leads. He's tied for first with Antila through 2 rounds, playing well. And I'm over here just furious that you were going to pick another winner and open up the lead even more on me in the points picks. And then Rick shoots a 1 over. He goes OB 5 times. He only has 4 holes that are under par, an eagle and 3 birdies. That is paired with 4 bogeys and a double. On 18, he had 11% from circle 2. He went 1 of 9 from circle 2. He was only 71% from circle 1. Just didn't have it, and it was as bad of a round as you could have asked for. And it continues Ricky's streak of not being able to win at the majors. He was in prime position. Shoots 8 down on the final day. Prime position to win this tournament, to at least be in the mix for this tournament. And, the USDGC evades him. He still has not won a major in quite some time. And it's even worse that Ricky tweets about how his top 10 streak continues. And Statmando then later points out that his 7th place finish is his worst USDGC finish since 2014.
Yeah, Statmando puts a tweet out. It says, worst finish since 2014, but 7 straight top 10s. And Ricky quote tweets it and is like, my streak continues. Ah, Rick. I mean, look. You just can't go out there and lay an egg in one of the rounds. I mean, you just can't. He shot a 1 over. It was terrible. He was pressing. He was trying too hard to make it happen, and you just will get burned alive at Winthrop if you do that. And that's what happened. If he shoots an 8 under there, you give him back 9 strokes, and that would put him at 31 down for the tournament. That's 2 shots off of Buhr. But I mean, who knows what would have happened if he was up there on the lead card and in contention on the final day. I mean,
Buhr wouldn't have been on lead card.
Generally, Ricky's been good in those spots.
Agreed. And Gannon having to do it from chase card, night and day tournament.
Yeah, could have been a different situation. Totally. Could have been a different situation. The win probability charts, by the way, crazy. Gannon Buhr jumps out to about 50% early in round 4. Then he's at 60%. Then after the 2-shot swing, when Buhr double bogeys, Antila goes to 80%. After 14, it's 55% Antila. After 17, it's 20% Antila, 80% Buhr. And, of course, Buhr closed it out on 18. So, crazy.
You want to know something interesting, Charlie? His third round egg was 1,006 rated, which ties his round from the European Open, where he also shot a terrible 1,006 rated round. So he has 2 rounds at the majors this year that barely cracked the 1,000 mark.
Yeah, I mean, I can't really kill him for European too much because Eagle and Paul just were on another level that weekend. But
sure,
I mean, at the end of the day, you got to bring it at the majors, man. I don't know what to tell you.
Can't shoot 1,000 rated rounds.
You just can't. And like, yeah, credit to you. Like, you do have the top 10 again, but like contextually, it's not a good top 10. It's not.
No.
When you're in a position to win and you completely take yourself out of a chance to win, took himself out of a chance to win. He had no chance to win this tournament going into round 4 when you were leading after round 2. It's a disaster. There's no way around it. There's just no way around it. All right, go to 6. Paige Pierce finishes 16 shots off the win. What's going on with Paige?
I don't know.
I mean, it's not like Catrina and Kristen played so amazingly well that like Paige had no chance. It was just like they were total beast mode. No, it wasn't like that.
Paige was in the mix.
She was.
That's the crazy part. Is like her 3 down in round 1 and 3 down in round 2. Like, I guess at that point you're, what? 60, you're already 10 strokes
back
off,
or something like
back,
that.
so
yeah.
It's quick. But I mean, 6 down was fine. She was out of Kristen for most of the tournament.
Yeah, the 3 down in round 2 is really what did her in. I mean,
yeah,
the 3 down in round 1 was fine. It's like she was 4 shots back and kind of like in the conversation.
Well, no, it was the +7 in round 3 that did her in.
Well, I mean, I guess I'd say both did her in. Because 3 players shot a 10 under in round 2 when the weather was absolutely picture perfect. And Paige was actually playing fine and then just got cold late in the round. Double bogeyed 14, bogeyed 15, didn't get a birdie after hole 12. And like some of those late holes are very gettable. And she didn't get them. So yeah, not great.
Yeah, that's not great.
It's been a weird stretch for Paige. She seems to have like kind of lost the motivation. I remember this happened last year too. In the late season, she just did not play well.
Number 5, you cannot trust Calvin at a final round of a major. And look, I love Calvin. Calvin is one of the players I want to win more. Like I actively cheer for Calvin on the regular. I love Calvin. But the guy shoots an average of 20 rating points worse in final rounds at majors than he does on the cumulative average rounds for like every other event round at a major.
Wow.
Cumulative average, just the average. The average rounds of the average of previous rounds at majors. Man, words today. Calvin is a great player. He's got a couple wins on tour this season. He cannot be trusted at the final round of a major right now.
Well, what's crazy is, he had a chance here. But I mean, an absolutely brutal 5-shot swing on 10 with Buhr. Buhr gets the eagle. Calvin takes a 7 with 2 OBs. You just can't do it. And, tip the cap. I mean, he played all the way back to 3rd place by birdieing 7 of the last 8 holes. And he had that incredible shot on 18. Super fun to watch him just absolutely bomb one. I feel like more players should do that. I mean, I guess the risk reward isn't really there, but he picked it up. Hole 6.
He did
to hole 18. He birdied all but 3 holes. That is very impressive. But you cannot start the tournament with 5 straight pars, or you start the final round with 5 straight pars. And then you can't take a triple bogey on the easiest hole in the course. You just can't do it.
And there are people who are saying, oh, but it was just 1 hole. He was 1 hole away from winning the tournament. But I don't trust, at this point, I wouldn't trust Calvin to go 7 down through 8 in the final stretch if he's in the mix. No way.
It's a lot different to shoot those birdies when it doesn't really matter anymore.
Yes.
I mean,
so
he birdies 7 of 8 and still finishes 4 shots back of Buhr.
Can't trust Calvin at a major.
You can't take a triple bogey when you're in contention in the final round. Apparently, you can take a double bogey, though.
Well, it's a double bogey on a hole that most people are parring.
And to be fair,
not a
Buhr
triple on an eagle.
Also
bowl.
went 7 under in the front 9, which is ridiculous. And then he
Right.
went 9 under through 10. So he had some strokes to play with at that point. I mean, he was like having, to that point, the best round of anybody at the tournament the entire weekend.
If Calvin takes 3 or 4 birdies rather than 5 pars to start, take a triple bogey. I don't care.
That's true. No, it's true. It would have been a different ball game.
Things together
Would have been a different ball game.
Yeah.
But when you come out of hole 10 even, and Gannon Buhr comes out of hole 10 9 under.
See you next year.
Try again next time. I think he's going to win one, by the way. But I think the answer for Calvin is to play well in the first 3 rounds so that he has some cushion.
Yep. Has 3 strokes.
I think if he has a lead, he can win. And he will. Mm-hmm. He's the best player on the planet right now that has not won a major. I don't think there's a question.
Yep.
He'll get one, but another disappointing finish in the final round. Number 4. The field strength at Throw Pink was second on the season behind Worlds. And we get this massive payday, 10 grand for the winner. Let's just speak factually about this tournament. It's a major. It doesn't get an M, but it's a major and it should be treated as such. It should be calculated in major statistics when we think about who should win Player of the Year. Collectively, as a fan base, we should consider it a major. And if you want to say that it's just there's 5 FPO majors, and that's what I'm going to do. But I am basically going to consider this tournament win a major victory for Catrina Allen. And I know it's not going to go in the record books that way, and that's just going to have to be dealt with for now. But for all intents and purposes, it's a major. It's qualify. You can only qualify by playing well. It has a massive purse. It has a massive payday for the winner. It has as good a field as any tournament on the season, besides the much, 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 much bigger World Championships. Mm-hmm. Well, it's at a historic course. It gets treated like a major by the entire event, the media, everything. I'm tired of talking around it as if it's not a major. It's annoying on the broadcast to not be able to talk about it as a major. And I think that this needs to get rectified by the PDGA. To be frank, the PDGA doesn't really get to decide what a major is. A major just means the most important tournament. We agree on that collectively. The players, the fans, the media. Well, I'm sitting here and I'm telling you it's a major. What more do we need to do? Like, this should be a major. It should be counted as a major in the history books. I hope they rectify this sooner rather than later.
I think you hit the nail on the head. 100% agree. There's nothing that this is the best run. Probably, I would say this is the best run FPO event of the year. The course, the competition, payout.
Course was great for the women too.
We talked about it through 2 rounds. The Throw Pink Women Championships leader was ahead of the USDGC leader by strokes. Catrina Allen was 16 under. Ricky Wysocki and Nicholas Antila were 15 under. I don't remember the last time I've seen that after 1 round, let alone 2.
Yeah. And you know, we can gripe about hole 9 being too easy, which it was. It should be a 3.
Sure.
But, you know, there's a couple little tweaks here and there, but by and large, felt fair, felt correct. The holes that were par 4 for the men and par 5 for the women were appropriate. Frankly, hole 3, which, by the way, there were 10 birdies in MPO on hole 3 on the week. I set the line at 10.5. Josh shook the under.
10. Good line, Charlie.
At least I'm a good line setter. When we start the Disc Golf Sportsbook,
Oh man.
I'm going to make bank.
Yes, we are.
But it played correctly as a par 5 for the women, and it played too hard as a par 4 for the men.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the same thing is true on 18. It's actually 18 is a perfectly fair par 4 for the men and a perfectly fair par 5 for the women. It's just about perfectly right. It's maybe a little soft as a par 5, but by and large, this is what course design should look like for the women.
Mm-hmm.
They make the holes play similarly, and they adjust tee pads, pin locations, and par to make it work correctly and get good scoring distribution. It's perfect.
Yep. Next, I think Henna Blomroos may have the highest FPO ceiling of any player on tour right now if she can putt league average.
Has she stolen this crown from Evelina?
I think she might have. And I get it. Evelina had the better season up to this point. And we watch Evelina throw, and we've talked about the way and how Evelina is just one of the best pure throwers. Henna, though, not only is just an incredibly pure thrower, but I think what really distinguishes me about Henna is that she throws further than Evelina, and her shot selection is one that just very much mirrors the way she uses hyzers. Evelina plays very well. She can throw the disc very pure. She can draw lines, perhaps better than any other FPO player, the way she can draw those lines. But Casey White told us in an interview a couple of months ago, the way to win on tour is to take really overstable discs and throw hyzers really accurately and really far. If you can do that well, that's how to win the Disc Golf Pro Tour, is if you can just throw hyzers better than everybody else, because they're the most controlled and you gain distance out of them. Henna does that. And we have been seeing a level of play from her that even when she is having bad rounds, the way that she throws the disc is unreal. And I think that Henna might have the highest FPO ceiling.
She was absolutely balling out there for much of this tournament. She ended up finishing third in strokes gained tee to green, behind Kristen and Evelina. And she lost about a stroke to the field putting, which is not good considering that the top players were gaining 10 plus strokes.
Right. Can I give you a couple stats real quick for Henna?
Sure.
All right. Ready for this? You have, since U.S. Women's Championship, 7th at U.S. Women's, 3rd at European Open, 2nd at Finnish Nationals, 9th at Des Moines, 2nd at Worlds, 2nd at GMC, 9th at MVP, and now 3rd at Throw Pink. Yeah. Hasn't missed the top 10. She's got a handful of podiums to go with it.
And has been in a position to win tournaments if she could putt.
Yes. Yep.
Including this one.
Without a doubt.
She led the tournament. She led Throw Pink in Circle 1 in regulation. 53% had a look at birdie inside Circle 1. Second best was Haley King at 49%. It's actually like a pretty substantial difference. It's like almost 10% better than Haley by relative amount.
Yeah.
So yeah, I you might be right. She's still super young. Both she and Evelina.
She is.
Hopefully they can figure out the putter this offseason.
Well,
number 2 storyline, Kristen Tatar podiums once again, and she sets the highest single season earnings record in FPO. She surpasses Missy Gannon, even though she didn't win a $30,000 purse yet. She get this. If you just sort by total cash earned this season across the entire tour, number 1, Macbeth. Number 2, Wysocki. Number 3, Kristen Tatar. Beast mode.
And she didn't play half the season.
Yeah. Skipped 2 majors.
Incredible. She's incredible. She's got the 8th highest all-time seasons earning in MPO and FPO combined.
I mean, of course, there's going to be a lot of that with the fact was how much we've seen purses increase these last couple seasons, but it's still very impressive, especially when you're comparing to MPO as well.
Right. And the top storyline, Nicholas Antela is just putting out perhaps a turning point tournament when we look at the performance of him as a European. He only had 5 OBs. He played great all weekend. This is paired with a strong finish to the season where he was able to finish out the last 3 or 4 events in just incredibly strong fashion, and in a way that I think was kind of quiet. We'd been talking about the Europeans all season, and the hype had died down enough that it got a little bit quiet. But if you look at the end of his season, he goes over. So after European Open, where he took 4th, he then wins Estonian Open on the European Pro Tour. He wins Finnish Nationals. Not so great for a while, then comes back and is able to do 8th at GMC, 13th at MVP, and now 2nd at USDGC. Just a strong, strong player. And I think it's a question of, when does he win, not if he's going to win.
Yeah, I mean, he clearly has incredible skills. And, you forget, I think it's easy to forget that he was the guy, he was the European player who we looked at coming into this year as the one who's probably got the highest ceiling. And I think we saw that on display at the end of the season. It's easy to forget that these guys have not toured in the U.S. before. That's a challenge. It's a challenge to play against a much higher caliber of competition week in and week out. It's a challenge to get used to the rhythm of traveling in the United States, much further distances than you're typically traveling in Europe. And just like the time zones and the adjustment to your lifestyle that's required.
The distance on course, distance on the courses.
Yeah, the courses are super different. So, when you look at the way that he's played over these last couple of weeks, he averages 1045 golf at GMC, 1038 golf at MVP, 1065 golf at USDGC. I mean, he played great, and he didn't blow it in the final round, really.
No, I mean, had a good final round.
He missed a couple putts, and obviously he's going to want those back. But at the end of the day, Gannon just played lights out, and he took it from him. And yes, if he makes the putts on 14 and 17, are we talking about a different story? Yeah, very possibly.
Maybe.
But, missing a couple of putts is not, choking, right? He didn't choke. Gannon just played awesome. And, for him to be the first time ever to have a solo European MPO leader at USDGC, that's a special thing that he gets to hold in the future, even though he didn't end up winning this tournament.
One stroke away from wire to wire.
Yeah. I mean, what a performance. And I think many more good things to come from Antila. And, I think he showed us here why he's been considered the sort of star up-and-coming player in Finland and really in the entire European continent. And I agree with you, Josh. I think on the right course or courses, he can absolutely win a major championship. Will he be the first European major winner of this era? Or maybe let me put it this way. Will he be the first European major winner on U.S. soil? Because that hasn't happened yet.
Yeah, I'll say yes. I think I like his odds. Are you kidding? Have you seen Simon at U.S. majors? Where did he finish this weekend? 51st, 52nd?
He was not relevant.
Yeah, let me start scrolling.
57th.
57th at 1 over par. Yeah, Simon is terrible on U.S. soil at majors. U.S. majors, Nicklaus took 9th at GMC this year. He only went OB at USDGC 5 times.
Yep.
Tell me that he couldn't win at Brewster and Fox Run.
He can.
If he stays in the fairway at Brewster and avoids OB at Fox Run, but is able to just play that same kind of smart but very pure golf, he could win. He could win Worlds next year. He's good enough.
So I'll bring it back to something I said right at the open of the show. Do you think this could be a moment that we look back on and say, this is when a new era of disc golf started?
Yes, I do. And I think to the same point, that in like, it's not to say that Ricky and Paul are done winning.
No.
It's not to say that Calvin and Eagle are done winning. It's not to say that Simon is done winning, right?
Or even that Gannon and Nicholas are going to start winning a lot.
Right. But I think when you look, when I think about this era of disc golf now, I look over at tennis, and you have the likes of, Rafa and Federer and Djokovic, right? The behemoths of the sport. And you look right now at ATP rankings, and it is Carlos Alcaraz still at the top. A young player who is exciting, dynamic, and is able to compete with the best of them.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean he'll win every weekend. Doesn't mean he's going to stay number one.
Big 3 era is over, isn't it? I mean, Fed is retired.
Over. Right. It's over. That era is over. And the era in disc golf of a big 3 is probably over.
I don't even know.
Gossage.
Have we ever had a big 3?
I don't know if we've had a big 3.
Macbeth with various challengers.
Right. His challenger list just got longer.
Yeah.
And I was saying that earlier in the season, right? Where we have for the past 10 years, Macbeth won his first major and first world championship in 2012. For a decade, we have talked about disc golf with the world revolving around Macbeth. Macbeth is not washed. Macbeth is probably going to win a major next year. He's going to tie Climo's record.
He's going to break Climo's record.
To break Climo's record. That's probably a good solid bet. But I don't know if you talk about disc golf framed against Macbeth anymore. Maybe we're wrong, because we were this season.
Well, gosh, I'll tell you what. If he didn't win Worlds, we would already be talking about that, right?
Yeah, we would have.
Him winning Worlds salvaged a season that is, by his standards, forgettable.
Mm-hmm. Strong major performance.
As always.
4th USDGC, 2nd at European Open, won the Worlds.
Yep.
Big deal. He probably could do it again next year. But there are going to be new and more challengers every single year, and a 1057 rated tournament is not going... I'm shocked that it was enough to win Worlds, and it's not going to be enough to win majors moving forward.
I'll just say this. The number 1 American disc golf prospect and the number 1 European disc golf prospect just went 1-2 at the U.S. Championships. So think about that as we head into the close to our show. And we'll say, join us Thursday as we continue our discussions of Winthrop and USDGC. And we will also get you ready for the Tour Championship, which starts that same day, just up the road from Winthrop University in Charlotte at Nevin Park. And wow, the off season is so close. I'm afraid. I don't know what's going to happen. We have many things to talk about, though. We're already going to start to have some hot stove. There's something coming. By the time this show comes out, we might already have some news. But we'll break that all down very soon. Make sure that you get your Ultiworld Disc Golf subscription. Catch up on our Rapid React shows where we went every day during the tournament. And we'll, of course, be catching up on the Disc Golf Pro Tour Championship as well on Sunday. So make sure you tune in for that live in our Discord. Go to discgolf.ultiworld.com/subscribe. Gannon Buhr will join us tomorrow for our interview series. Can't wait to talk with the new U.S. champion. For Josh Mansfield, I'm Charlie Eisenhood saying so long, and we'll talk to you Thursday right here on The Upshot.